catering.com or visit one of 4 area locations today.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Focused, fueled, fearless, Farah. He's Hacker.
Talk about a fried egg. I lasted about 5 minutes out there. I said, to heck with this. I'll do this in the morning. And I don't have any inside information. The lady that did it, she got in there. She made it happen.
And he doesn't shy away from opinion.
And I do enjoy drinking cold beer at ballparks. So if that makes me a baseball fan, then I'm a diehard baseball fan.
It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
And a very good Wednesday evening to you, Jacksonville. It is Hacker After Dark, 1010XL 92.5 FM with Aaron Williams. The Hacker Ryan Green with you. Glad you are with us on the eve of March Madness. We had 2 games last night, a really good game last night between Texas and North Carolina State. Of course, Texas came out on top, because as we know, in the Southeastern Conference, it just means more. So that's a big SEC victory over the ACC. Texas advances to take on BYU. NC State goes home. Right now, Florida Gator fans, Prairie View A&M and Lehigh are battling in Dayton, Ohio. The winner of that game, of course, will play Florida late on Friday night in Tampa. At last check, Prairie View A&M by 4. Lehigh did have a 2-point lead at the half. Prairie View has come out and played pretty well to begin the second half. Prairie View A&M has never won an NCAA tournament game, and that's one of the cool things about being in this game. I remember UNF was in this game like 10, 11 years ago. This counts. This game in Dayton tonight counts as obviously an NCAA tournament win. So for a school like Prairie View A&M, if they were to beat Lehigh tonight, they get their first NCAA tournament victory. Obviously, Florida will be overwhelming favorites against either team that wins tonight. But it is interesting watching one of these teams, because one of them will play Florida on Friday. And right now, Prairie View A&M with a 4-point lead with about 15 minutes to go. Later on tonight, Miami of Ohio, the 31-1 Miami of Ohio basketball team. And you say, well, why are they in the first 4? And as we've talked about for the last week or so, they're in the first 4 because their schedule was garbage. They did not beat a team ranked inside the top 50 all year. They won 31 games, but they did not beat anybody worth any substance. They play SMU tonight out of the ACC, so we'll see. For a game in Dayton, it's got a little intrigue to me because I want to see what a 31-1 Miami of Ohio team looks like. But again, they have not beaten anybody that is ranked inside the top 50 nationally the entire year. And then, of course, tomorrow, right about high noon, starts to me what might be 4 of the best consecutive days on the sports calendar every year. 16 games on Thursday, 16 games on Friday. Follow that up with 8 games on Saturday and 8 games on Sunday. We go from 64 teams at noon Eastern tomorrow down to 16 teams by roughly 10, 11 o'clock on Sunday night. It is wild. 48 games to watch over the next 4 days, beginning at noon tomorrow. As Baloo told you, he and I will be on the road the next couple of nights. We will start tomorrow night out in Ponte Vedra, out at Mr. Chubby's. Hope you come on out and join us into the night with Rick Baloo, 6 to 8. We'll have you on Hacker After Dark from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Mr. Chubby's out in Ponte Vedra. And then Friday night, the night of the Gator game, we will be in my neck of the woods, right? Top Dog Tavern off of Old St. Augustine Road in the Bartram area. Certainly looking forward to being out and about for the next 2 nights during the NCAA tournament. So we're going to spend some time on the tournament. We're going to do something a little different, right? A lot of sports radio shows don't go down this road, particularly on the Wednesday leading in to the first round of March Madness. but we're trendsetters here on Hacker After Dark. We like to do things a little differently. So I thought we might, I don't know, give you some picks, right? I know a lot of people don't do that today. They don't let you know who they have in their Sweet 16 or their Elite Eight or their Final Four. They really should, because if you're going to do it, today is the day to do it, to tell you who you have in your bracket, because I know a lot of people don't do that, but we're going to do it. And maybe we'll start a trend tonight here on Hacker After Dark, but we'll give you some picks coming up in just a moment. We're never going to get too far away from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jared Bailey of SB Nation and the Pump Fake Podcast. Jared's one of my favorites to talk NFL with. And in fact, Jared on social media, he's one of the guys nationally that has fought the good fight for Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. I like having Jared Bailey on because I won't say a Jaguar apologist, but he's one of the more positive guys about Jacksonville that covers the league from a national point of view. Although he did not like James Gladstone's comments last week about the whole compensatory picks, and that's reason why, maybe Devin Lloyd and ETN are gone, is that you get those compensatory picks. Well, Bailey went on social media, had a lot to say. Jaguar Twitter did not like that. So Jarrett, in good fun, is going to come on tonight and explain himself a little bit. So he'll join us towards the top of the 9 o'clock hour. Kevin Brockway of the Gainesville Sun and Gatorsports.com joins us in about 15 minutes to look at the Gators' path in the NCAA tournament. And later on in the 9 o'clock hour, we will go to Orlando. Dante Marcatelli of the FanDuel Sports Network will join us to talk a little NBA and Orlando Magic. We're so caught up in March Madness. In the NBA, we only got about 13 or 14 regular season games left for every team. Postseason play in the association will begin in just a few short weeks. So we'll talk to Dante Marcatelli about the Orlando Magic and more later on in the 9 o'clock hour. Jacksonville, we're glad you're with us on a Wednesday here on Hacker After Dark. Every night on HAD, we do kick it off with a big deal of the night and Aaron Williams. Let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal?
What is the big deal?
No, because it is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
There was a time in my life, not all that long ago, as a matter of fact, where I kind of did a lot of research on these games. And when I filled out my bracket, it was one of the fun things to do every year. I knew a little bit about some of the teams. Obviously, did not know a lot about the mid-majors, but I would do a little research. Heck, we might have even had a guest on, 10, 15 years ago from some of these schools that were a part of the bigger first-round games. But as I've gotten older and as college basketball has changed a little bit, I almost think it's getting easier to fill out brackets. And what do I mean by that? I don't think in the land that we're in right now of NIL and the portal and the money that's involved, I don't think we're going to have very many George Masons anymore. I don't think we're going to have very many Butlers and VCUs anymore. Florida Gulf Coast, Dunk City, and all these Cinderellas making these runs. I mean, you look last year, I think it was the first time in over a decade that the 4 number 1 seeds made it to the Final Four. When you have 12 and 13-man rosters, and those rosters, for the large part, SEC, Big 10, Big 12, ACC, when you have the money and the resources to go out and get the best players from the mid-majors, which is exactly what's happening, it's going to be hard for mid-majors to compete. Now, can they win a game tomorrow or Friday in round 1? Yeah, probably. I wouldn't doubt we see a couple of double-digit seeds pull off victories in round 1. But I don't think, at least for the here and now and where we are in college basketball, that you're going to have a lot of these George Mason, VCU, Butler, San Diego States, Florida Atlantics that have made the Final Four in the last 5, 10, 15 years. I get the vibe that that's not going to be the case moving forward unless some other things change in the world of college hoops. So having said all that, you always try to find something for an upset in round one. And I got to tell you, in filling out my bracket, it was hard, man. It was hard to find a double-digit upset. I don't have many. Louisville, South Florida. That seems to be the one, right? Louisville, a lot of people were picking USF anyway. And Louisville now is going to be without one of their star freshmen. So that's one I'm still going back and forth on. I'll tell you a funny story about filling out brackets. This had to be, golly, probably 10, 12 years ago. I had Louisville in my Final Four when Rick Pitino was there. And I'll never forget it. They were a 4 seed, and they were playing, I believe, a 13 seed in Morehead State. They were the Thursday 12:15 Eastern game. Literally the first game out of the gate. First game of the tournament in the round of 64. And Morehead State knocked Louisville out. Thus, I lost a Final Four team at 2:30 Eastern on the opening Thursday of the NCAA tournament. And I've never quite forgiven Louisville for that. That was one of the more embarrassing moments when you lose a Final Four team 2 hours into the round of 64. So I'm tempted to go USF there. I probably will go USF. So that's a double-digit seed that I'm at least leaning towards right now. Aside from that, I'm looking, and I'm looking, and I'm looking. I think St. Mary's is a 7. They're actually the favorite over Texas A&M. I have St. Mary's winning that game. But I got Missouri as a 10, knocking off Miami. That's a 7. I don't really think that would be that big of an upset. I got St. Louis as a 9, knocking off Georgia. That's an 8. Again, not a very big upset. And that's basically it. That's what I got for you. I just don't have a lot of upsets in round one. But I do have what I think is an interesting, probably Elite 8, Sweet 16. Let me tell you where I'm at in the Elite 8. In the Sweet 16. Sweet 16, I got Duke and St. John's, Michigan State, and UConn coming out of the East. That would be a 1 versus a 5 and a 2 versus a 3. I'll save Florida's region for a moment. In the West, I have complete chalk. I have a 1 playing the 4 with Arizona playing Arkansas. I have a 2 playing the 3, Purdue playing Gonzaga. Likewise, in the Midwest, I have complete chalk. A 1 in Michigan playing the 4, Alabama. A 2, Iowa State playing the 3, Virginia. In the South, I almost have chalk. I got Houston and Illinois, 2 versus 3. I have Florida and Vanderbilt, which would be a 1 versus a 5. So literally in my Sweet 16, I have 2 5 seeds, and that's it. I don't have anybody higher than a 5 seed making the Sweet 16, which goes into what I just talked about earlier. I just don't think we're going to have a lot of Cinderellas. My Elite 8, Duke, Michigan State in the East, Arizona, Purdue in the West, Michigan, Virginia in the Midwest, and Florida, Houston in the South. Here is my Final 4. I got Duke coming out of the East. I got Arizona coming out of the West. Probably my 1 fly in the ointment. I have Virginia coming out of the Midwest. And out of the South, and if this costs me my Gator card, I guess so be it. I got the Houston Cougars, and I'll tell you why. And I pretty much explained it last night, but for those of you that didn't hear it, I'll do it again. For the last couple of weeks, guys, I have sat here and screamed into this microphone, if I'm Florida, if I'm the Gators, I want to avoid Houston like the plague. You know, as many times as I have, as you have as Gator fans, as many times as we've watched that final 10 seconds of the national championship game last year, when Deron Sharp caught that ball, Walter Clayton comes out there flying, would have probably blocked it. Sharp went up, couldn't get a shot off, and then he couldn't touch it because it would be traveling. Alex Condon secured it, ball game over, tournament over. Florida is the national champion. As many times as we've watched that in the positive, you know who's watched that in the negative? You know who's watched that just wanting another shot at Florida? Well, I bet Deron Sharp has watched that. He's back. He's one of the best players Houston has. He's a senior now. I think 3 of those guys for Houston that were on that court during that final possession are still on that team. They have been craving a second shot at Florida because if you talk to Houston, Florida didn't beat them last year. Houston let that game get away. I don't know if I believe that. I think Florida certainly made plays to win, but Houston had a couple of inexplainable turnovers late in that game. And the fact that they didn't even get a shot off, they didn't even get a ball to the rim with under 10 seconds to go, down by 2 in the national championship game, is astounding to me. And it's probably astounding to them, too. So I've been sitting here for the last couple of weeks saying, oh, I hope the committee does not put Florida and Houston in the same region. Because you don't get many second chances in life. But for those Houston kids that were on the floor last year when Florida beat them, and when Walter Clayton jumped into the arms of Micah Handlockton and the Gators were celebrating that title, and Houston had to watch that, that had to be a bitter, bitter pill to swallow. So what does the committee do? Not only do they put Houston in the same region as Florida, but if those two teams play each other, where is the game going to be played? In Houston, Texas. Talk about an unbelievable situation for the Gators. You're playing a team that will be foaming at the mouth to see you after you beat them for the national title in March of last year, or I guess early April of last year. And if you see them again, it'd be in the Elite Eight for the right to go to the Final Four, and the game is in Houston. Absolutely crazy. So saying all that, give me Houston out of the South. I think that is a terrible matchup for the Gators. I really hope Illinois beats Houston in the Sweet 16, because if that happens, then all bets are off, and Florida can very easily go to the Final Four. But I'm going to take Houston. If nothing else, I'm consistent. I'm not going to sit here and yell into the mic for weeks and weeks on end. If you're Florida, you want to avoid Houston. And then knowing now that Florida is going to have to play Houston and play them in Houston, in good conscience, I can't take the Gators. So give me Duke and Houston in one national semifinal. Give me Arizona, Virginia in another national semifinal. My title game is an all Big 12. Houston and Arizona. And my national champion, the Arizona Wildcats. Opening night when they beat Florida, I thought, man, that's a good basketball team. And now here we are 4.5 months later. What are they, 32-2 or something ridiculous like that? I think Arizona is going to cut down the nets in Indianapolis. I expect the Arizona Wildcats to be this year's college basketball national champion. Aaron, quickly, who do you have in your Final Four?
Who I have in my Final Four is UConn, Houston, Arizona, and Michigan. I have UConn and Arizona in the final two, with Arizona winning it.
All right, now did you homer up there because you're a UConn fan?
No, I did not. I do believe that UConn is one of the best teams in there. Looking at it, I think I have UConn beating Duke, and I know most people will disagree with me, but
well,
I think
Duke's got injury problems. I don't think that's crazy.
Say it again.
Duke's got injury problems. I don't think that's crazy.
And that's why, that's part of the reason why I have UConn winning that. And I trust Dan Hurley. Dan Hurley is one of the best coaches in the nation. He'll get the boys ready. But I think in the championship game, I think Arizona will just be a little bit too much for UConn to overcome.
Yeah, the crazy thing is I thought I was going out on a limb with my Final Four with Virginia. I think me and Baloo literally have the same Final Four.
Yeah.
Baloo has Duke, Virginia, Arizona, and Houston just like I do, but he's got Duke and Virginia in the championship game. I have Arizona, Houston in the championship game, but we do have the same Final Four. So that's it. I got the Arizona Wildcats cutting the nets down. I hope I'm wrong about the Gators. I hope Florida can beat Houston. I hate the circumstances because there's a revenge factor, and it's going to be a de facto home game for Houston if they see each other in the Elite Eight. If that game does happen, a man that will be there is Kevin Brockway of the Gainesville Sun and Gatorsports.com. Let's talk about Florida's path to a repeat national championship. What does he think about it? Was the SEC tournament last week in Nashville just a blip on the radar? Or are there problems for the Gators entering the NCAA tournament? Kevin Brockway, Gainesville Sun, Gatorsports.com next on a Wednesday night here in the city of Jacksonville. We're glad you're with us till 10 o'clock on Hacker After Dark.
There's no business like show business.
Now, this is serious business here, man.
The Drill.
We've got a mission.
Dan Hicken and Jeff Prosser.
Putting on a great show is the most important thing you can do.
Mornings on 1010XL.
Bueller, stay cooler with Bueller.
Hey, pal.
Stand back, Jason. I'm gonna
Sneeze? Yeah, I saw that coming.
It's all this spring pollen, Jason. It's outside and it's inside my house, and I just can't stop. I can't stop.
Sneezing? Okay, let me help you with that.
How can you help?
At Bueller Air and Plumbing, we can improve your indoor air quality with air purifiers, UV lights, and filtration systems. Every new system we install includes high-efficiency 4-inch filters that work better and last longer, even if you forget to change them.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Life can get pretty dusty sometimes. If you spend all day, you could miss it.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
Beard's Diamonds is where Jacksonville shops for engagement rings and fine diamond jewelry. Hey, Hicken here. Beard's Diamonds at the St. John's Town Center stands out in a big way. They're local. The Lupos have been around forever. For more than 40 years, money spent at Beard's doesn't go to Wall Street, stays right here. Here's the best part. You don't compromise on anything. Beard's has the best selection of diamonds in Northeast Florida. Beard's doesn't have to jack up prices to meet a corporate bottom line. Beard's doesn't have commission salespeople. Beard's has all the top names in bridal jewelry like Decorio and Veragio. Beard's guarantees to give you a better price, a better value. Listen, a lot of those chain jewelry stores are all owned by the same mega conglomerate. Different names, all the same owner. Not Beard's. They're your locally owned alternative, beholden to the people of Jacksonville, not Wall Street. Don't buy a diamond ring or any piece of jewelry without talking to my friends at Beard's Diamonds. Beard's Diamonds. Shop local, shop Beard's at the St. John's Town Center.
When Cinderella gets dressed up for the big dance.
For the win. Andy Hill.
Follow the madness and listen for live tournament updates on 1010XL. Prepared by Fleming Island Center for Clinical Research.
Are you tired of getting hammered by high-interest debt, mortgage rates over 6%, credit cards and car loans at 10, 20%? Hey, Prosser here, and Loan Pronto is here with the answer you've been waiting on, the all-in home refi. One fast, easy solution to lock in the lowest rate in 3 years and wipe out all those nasty loans. One homeowner got their APR down to 4.99%, paid off over 80 grand in high-interest loans, and saved over $2,000 a month. While some lenders charge up to $10,000 in fees to do this, Loan Pronto's cost is $995. $995, and you can wipe out your high-interest loans all at once. It's the all-in refi from Loan Pronto. Super fast, super cheap. No hard credit pull up front, often no appraisal, and you can even skip your next 2 house payments. Loan Pronto, A+, BBB rated with nearly 3,000 5-star Google reviews. It's time to go in now for the all-in refi. Go to loanpronto.com or call 999-1508. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166661781. Visit NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Indeed presents hires you can't afford to get wrong, like a warehouse operations manager.
Where are the forklifts?
Sold them. Too expensive. We're using scooters now.
So you expect us to move a 2-ton pallet on a scooter?
Just lean into it. Put your back into it, people.
This is a job for sponsored jobs. This is what happens when you don't sponsor your job on Indeed. Next time, get matched with quality candidates with Indeed sponsored jobs. Visit Indeed.com/hire now and sponsor your job today.
You know, Mr. Chubby's Wings is giving away free beer again this year for the Madness Tournament.
Do they really give you a free pint of Budweiser for each game you pick right?
Yes, all you got to do is fill out your bracket now at 1010XL.com. Overall winner gets tickets to Welcome to Rockville on Saturday. But for free beer, just download your bracket, print it out, and bring it into any Mr. Chubby's Wings location during the games. Every game you pick right, you get a free beer.
Go to 1010XL.com now. It's the Free Beer Chubby Madness Bracket Challenge. See Mr. Chubby's Wings Facebook for full contest detail.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still, present, ready. Farah doesn't flinch. Here's another call on the 1010XL hotline, driven by Key Buick GMC, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. The Florida Gators coming off, well, a quite frankly disappointing SEC tournament. Still get a number 1 seed in the South region. They know they are going to Tampa. They will play late Friday night. They don't know who they're going to play, though. They'll get the winner of Lehigh and Prairie View A&M, and if they manage to survive that game, they will then see the winner of Iowa and Clemson in the round of 32. Let's talk about the Gators, the disappointment in Nashville, and what that may mean moving forward with Kevin Brockway, Gainesville Sun, Gatorsports.com. Kevin's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Kevin, how we doing, my friend?
We're doing good, yes. A wonderful time of the year, right? March Madness, and I know Gator fans are disappointed about the SEC tournament, but everything starts anew now, and all you got to do is win 6 in a row. So if you can find a way to do it, you find a way to do it.
6 in a row to the finish line. Florida did it last year, and by the way, you could argue at least 4 of those 6 last year were in real question with 90 seconds to go. So it's that time of year. You got to win close games here in the NCAA tournament. Kevin, they beat Kentucky on Friday, and even in the win, they didn't look great. They shot the ball horribly. And then they go in Saturday against Vanderbilt, and good grief, man. I mean, they just got their doors blown off. Arguably their worst performance of the year. How much concern is there about Florida heading into the NCAA tournament?
I mean, I would say mild concern, but I would say also that, certainly, you try to learn from things like that. I think, the shooting, obviously taking a step back because it had been trending upward is a little bit of a concern. But if you have those off shooting nights, you got to defend the 3-point line well. And Vandy, they were 10 of 21. And I know some of their big guys hit threes. Maybe that was a little unexpected, but you still, if you realize they're hot early, you got to go out and get them. So I think that's what they kind of take from this is, hey, look, we're not built with the same firepower as we were last year, but we better find ways to, win in different ways. And that's by defending. And that's what they did against Kentucky when they won that game. They kind of won a grinded out ugly game that way, but didn't carry that over to the Vandy game where maybe they should have and lock down defense. This team is going to go as far, Ryan, as the defense takes them. And I think that's kind of the lesson.
Kevin, there's a saying in football that if a drive ends with a kick, it's a good thing, even if it's a punt or a field goal or an extra point, because if it ends with a kick, you did not turn the ball over. Well, likewise with basketball, particularly with this Florida team, I'm going to say if an offensive possession ends with hitting the rim, it's a good thing, because regardless if it goes in or not, they're probably the best offensive rebounding team in the country. What cannot happen is these turnovers, which have gotten to be very, very frustrating for Todd Golden and that staff.
Yeah, no question. And that bleeds into the, defense too, in terms of transition defense. So taking care of the ball is paramount, certainly. And, they are the best rebounding team in the country. They're plus 14-2 on the season. So, yeah, get those shots up on the rim. Let the big guys clean them up. You're going to have a size advantage in most instances in a lot of these games. That's how this team is constructed. So use that, to your advantage. And, I kind of thought that they were, certainly, playing really cohesive during that 12-game winning streak, and the turnovers were down. And for some reason, maybe a little bit of a hiccup. I don't know. Sometimes, particularly Kentucky, 3 games in a row, you pick up on things film-wise. Vanderbilt, your second time around in conference games, that can happen. I think it may work to Florida's favor that you're going to be seeing some teams, at least in the first weekend, that aren't as familiar with how you play, and that are going to require a little more film study. So I think that certainly could work in, Florida's advantage the first weekend. The only problem is the way the bracket sets up. You could have a rematch with Vandy in the Sweet 16, which I don't think, Florida's thrilled about at all.
Yeah, the committee's got an interesting sense of humor there. We'll get to that in a moment. Kevin Brockway of the Gainesville Sun, Gatorsports.com. Kevin, I'm sure you've seen this from a lot of Gator fans, even in your own inner circle like mine. Well, it's a good thing they lost. It'll recenter them, right? It'll get them refocused, re-energized. That's the positive spin of getting destroyed in the SEC semifinals. Is that reality? Is this loss a good thing, or is that just fan speak?
Well, I will say this, and, this is, past history and everything is new, but all 3 times Florida won the national championship, they also won the SEC tournament, 06, 07, and in last year in 2025. So there's something to be said for positive momentum going into that in March. But there have also been instances, UConn, when they won their first national championship in 2023, they didn't win their conference tournament. Baylor in 2021 is another example. So you don't have to win your conference tournament. You can kind of regroup from that, and teams have done that in the past and made, runs and have won national titles. So I think there are 2 sides to that coin. I do think that, certainly, getting that Friday 9:00 game from that Saturday, will give them plenty of time, not only to rest, but to practice, maybe work on some things, hone some things, going there. And I think starting in Tampa too, it works very well for him. I mean, it's been 8 in a row in the state. You have to go back to 2003 when, Tom Izzo's Michigan team beat Florida. Billy Donovan really punked them on the boards. That game was a really physical game in Tampa. I mean, that's the last time they've lost an NCAA tournament game in the state of Florida. So I think this is a good chance, a good weekend for them to kind of regroup, get their confidence back, and take it into the second weekend.
Kevin Brockway, Gainesville Sun, Gatorsports.com. Florida, the number 1 seed. As you said, they play Friday. It says 9:25. Not a chance on this planet that game is going to start at 9:25. You're probably looking closer to 9:45, if not 10 o'clock. So it will be a late night for Gator fans. And they don't even know who they play yet. They play the winner of Prairie View and Lehigh. Kevin, does it matter? I mean, Florida should have no problem on Friday night, correct?
Well, yeah, you know what? It's happened twice, right, in the history of the tournament. I mean, you go back to Fairleigh Dickinson versus Purdue. You go back before that to UMBC versus Virginia. How about this irony? When UMBC was a 16 seed and beat Virginia, you know who the coach for UMBC was? Ryan Odom, who is now coaching Virginia.
Wow. Yeah, how about that?
which is kind of interesting. Dave Odom's son, who, Dave Odom coached at Wake Forest in South Carolina. And I mean, he's done a tremendous job. So, yeah, so those are the only 2 times it's ever happened. I don't foresee, playing in Tampa, I don't foresee that, but I think they'll be fine either way. And then, when you look to the second game, obviously, I mean, Clemson, Brad Brownell, he's an experienced coach. He was in line for the Indiana job. He didn't get it, and got an extension at Clemson, a very good defensive coach. And then Iowa, Ben McCollum has done a really nice job his first year, another guy who's good defense, but neither of those teams has the kind of firepower that would really scare you. And I think Florida will have a size advantage on both fronts in those matchups. So like I said, I think the first weekend sets up really well for them.
Yeah, I agree. Look, and again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I watched a lot of Iowa Hawkeye or Clemson Tiger basketball. I watched more Clemson than Iowa. I saw Clemson play Florida State, obviously watched them against Duke, and they almost beat Duke in the ACC tournament. Did not watch a lot of Iowa, but from what I have read, been told, and heard from analysts out there, it's about as good a matchup for Florida as you could get because the strength of both Iowa and Clemson is in their front court, which is obviously the strength of Florida. I think the problem the Gators are going to have is when they run into really good backcourts.
I agree, and certainly Vandy exposed that a little bit with the shooting and their ability to move the ball and their ability to, create turnovers. That was definitely a problem, but let's not forget this is also a Florida team that held Darius Acuff to 6 of 19 shooting. So when they really lock in, they can take care of perimeter guys. They just have to be kind of locked in and kind of focused and kind of really on it. Boogie Fland's a very good defender. I think Urban Klafshar has improved as a defender. Isaiah Brown is a very athletic guy that's emerging. And Xavier Lee is a quick guy that tries out there. So I do think they have some pieces that can do it. Just for whatever reason, they had that lapse on Saturday where they didn't do it. And, Vandy too had one of those games where, the basket, everything went in. It was kind of like the ocean, the balls were going in like crazy. So sometimes you're going to have those days. And, I think Florida, they're just going to have to regroup and learn from it.
Final moments with Kevin Brockway. Hopefully we're talking to you next week, getting ready for the Sweet 16. But my thought on the bracket, Kevin, I'm curious about yours. The committee did Florida solid on opening weekend because I would be, quite frankly, shocked if Florida did not make it to the Sweet 16. But then it's hard, right? Because they have a weird sense of humor about putting Vanderbilt there because you could see a rematch. You would think Florida would be highly motivated for that contest. But then also you have to go to Houston with a likelihood of playing Houston. And the only reason that happens is because Houston is not a host team. It's Rice. That, to me, is ridiculous. You're putting Houston in their home city. I don't know if that's for Kelvin Sampson's benefit or not. You do with that what you will. But to me, that's a tough draw for the Gators the second weekend if they get there.
Yes, I agree. If you're a Gator fan, my advice would be to root hard for McNeese State in a 5-12 upset. Or, Nebraska, listen, Fred Hoiberg, too, has done a tremendous job with that program. I mean, you've got North Carolina as a 6 in that region. You've got St. Mary's as a 7, and that's, obviously a storyline with Todd Golden's, former program they played for, his former coach, Randy Bennett, his mentor who knows him as well as anyone, which might be a good thing or a bad thing if they happen to meet in the Elite Eight or they upset Houston. So there's a lot of different directions it can go before potential 1-2 in, certainly in Houston, in the home city. And maybe if you're Florida, you're hoping that Vanderbilt gets knocked off and Houston gets knocked off, before those two games. But if not, those two matchups, they're definitely not great matchups from the standpoint, obviously, of Vandy, just beating Florida, and then of Houston, of course, certainly being a team that will be playing in its home city and will be playing for a lot of revenge after, losing in the national title game to the Gators last year.
Well, it's weird how opinions can change so drastically. Like if you would have told me on Friday the Gators will get to the Elite Eight if they beat a 16 seed, if they beat the winner of Iowa Clemson, and if they likely beat Vanderbilt, I would have said, holy cow, where do I sign? But those 2 hours in Nashville on Saturday lead the mind to wander as to what would happen if they play Vanderbilt again. And the one thing I will say, Kevin, is this, as we begin to wrap up with you, I was of the opinion there wasn't a whole big difference between being a 1 and a 2. You were still going to Tampa. You were still going to be a favorite to get to the Elite Eight. And if you play like you did against Vanderbilt, if you were a 1 or a 2, you weren't going to win the national title. Having said that, the fact that they don't have to play Illinois and Houston potentially is big. Because if they were a 2, they would have likely had to play Illinois and then Houston, whereas now they don't have to do that. And I'm not sure if Houston's going to beat Illinois in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, there's a lot of different directions this could go, Ryan, and we see it every year, right? Last year was more of a chalky tournament, though. And I don't know with, the new factor in NIL, if that's going to be the trend where we're going to see a lot of favorites win and less of these upsets. But there will be a few, and like I said, if McNeese could upset Vandy, I think that would allay the fears of a lot of Florida fans, going into the second weekend. But we'll see how it all plays out. It's going to be, a fascinating, fun tournament. Listen, I think Todd can use this as an advantage, a little chip on his shoulder. I just saw a graphic where Florida is considered the 7% chance to get to the final to win the national championship, even below Houston right now. So I think certainly, they're still the defending national champions, and I'm sure, Todd's got plenty of bulletin board material. Apparently, in my Gainesville Sun pick, I picked Duke to win the national championship, and people are already giving me a hard time. Maybe they'll forward that to Todd Golden. Who knows? Yeah,
perhaps. Well, maybe they'll forward the fact that I'm probably going to pick Houston to go to the Final Four. Maybe they'll forward that to him. And I will say this. Look, if they get past opening weekend, and I don't want to look past Clemson and Iowa too much because you get in trouble doing that, but for the point of the argument, boy, if you're Florida, you're going to want to run through a brick wall to see Vanderbilt again. I mean, if you got any pride, and I know they do, Chinyalu, Condon, Houck, all those guys, Boogie Flan, they ought to be foaming at the mouth for another opportunity to see Vanderbilt, correct?
No question. Hey, look at UConn and St. John's, right? And UConn beat him by 32, and then St. John's went back and thumped him in the Big East tournament. And I'm sure Rick Pitino used that as motivation. Todd Golden could do the same thing, as saying, hey, remember what they did to us last time. Don't ever let that happen again. Come out here and show why you're the SEC champions, show why you're the defending national champions. You could use a lot of that as motivation. Coaches can. So, but ultimately it will come down to if that matchup, it comes down to defending the 3-point line too and denying taking shots. For as bad as Florida shot the ball this year, they've still made more threes than their opponents. So they're good, not even the percentage, but just, keeping people from putting them up. You get Chinilu out there on the switch, you get Condon out there on the switch, those big guys defending the 3-point line. That's what you're going to have to do, is just, force them, force teams into just making tough twos and take away that 3-point line. That's how you win if you're an inconsistent 3-point shooting team, in my opinion.
Kevin, what's the itinerary for the Gators? When do they go to Tampa, and what are you guys going to have on the Gainesville Sun and Gatorsports.com as the tournament approaches?
Yes, well, they'll start practicing there on Thursday. So myself and Andrew Abity, my colleague, will have wall-to-wall double coverage of the whole weekend. So you can follow us at Gatorsports.com, Gainesville.com. Follow us on the Florida Times Union website, because our stuff appears there, obviously, as part of the USA Today network. And you can follow me on Twitter at Kevin Brockway G1.
Kevin Brockway, Gainesville Sun, Gatorsports.com. Kevin, safe travels to Tampa. Hopefully you and I are having a conversation next week as Florida prepares for the second weekend. Appreciate you, my friend.
All right. Thank you, Ryan.
Live streaming from the XL Digital Studios. Brightened by Harbor Dental Care, Jacksonville's first choice for dental emergencies.
Awaken 180 weight loss. Awaken 180 weight loss. Hacker here. And, I talk about the maintenance program of Awaken 180 after you lose the weight. Like, I lost over 100 pounds. But with Awaken 180, they don't just send you down the road like some other folks do and say, all right, you did our program. Great, wonderful. See you later. No. You get coaching for life. In fact, I have a meeting tomorrow with my coaches, letting them know how I'm doing, what's going on. I usually meet about once a month now in the maintenance program, and that's one of the things that I love about Awaken 180. The knowledge that you gain about losing weight, why you're losing the weight, and how to keep the weight off. But if you ever need to ask more questions when you're in the maintenance program, you have that luxury whenever you want. They're with you every step of the way. Go to awaken180weightloss.com. That's awaken180weightloss.com, or call 844-346-1800 and do what I did. Get hooked up with the great folks of Awaken 180 Weight Loss.
Now, another classic moment in Jags history.
Mathis intercepted. It's Rasheed Mathis to win it for Jacksonville.
1010XL, home of the Jaguars.
All right, Jackson, let's talk about it. Spring cleaning feels great until your drains remind you what they've been holding on to all winter. If your sink's burping, your shower's backing up, or your toilet's hesitating like it's reading a blitz, it's time to call in the pros. Call Duck Duck Rooter. During their spring drain cleaning promotion, get your drains cleaned plus a free camera inspection for just $129. Must have outside clean out, honest pricing, proven experience, no fourth quarter surprises. When you're stuck, call the Duck. That's 904-862-6769 or duckduckrooter.com.
Looking for golf that doesn't feel like golf? Welcome to Pine Royale, Callahan's new golf entertainment destination. Play a 9-hole par 3 course, compete in TrackMan-powered driving bays, and get ready for all-new 18-hole mini golf coming soon. As the sun goes down, the course lights up. Add in great food, a full bar, and space to hang with the whole crew, and suddenly golf feels a whole lot more social. Search Pine Royale Callahan and come play today.
I'm here with Danny Van Sickle, director of the Electrical Training Alliance. Danny, tell me about your program.
Hey, Rick. We're a 4-year electrical apprenticeship. Our students start out making over $40,000 a year and right now make over $90,000 a year, including benefits. There is no tuition or student debt. You just have to apply and get accepted.
Did you say no tuition and no student debt?
You heard that right, Rick. Once you're accepted to the program, your only cost for the books and the course fees. About $800 a year.
That sounds like an amazing opportunity. How can I learn more?
Just go to etajax.org and you can apply there.
Apply by May 14th.
The price of gold is soaring, and the price of silver is near record highs. If you've got gold or silver just lying around, Estates Roadshow wants it. Broken chains, old rings, coins, watches, diamonds, vintage jewelry. If it's valuable, they're buying it. No appointment needed, just walk in, get a free appraisal, and walk out with cash. They're also buying pre-1964 silver coins, flatware, sterling silverware stamped 925. They're buying coin collections, gold, silver, foreign, and domestic. Plus, they've been in business over 35 years with thousands of prior happy customers. Licensed, bonded, state-certified scales, highest tech equipment, employees with GIA certifications. The Estates Roadshow is happening 10 to 5 through Friday, close by in St. Augustine at World Golf Renaissance and Palm Coast at the Holiday Inn Express. Call Marshall at 609-781-6559 or go to estatesroadshow.com and follow Estates Roadshow on Facebook to see all upcoming events.
Pages in your mailbox right now. Did you know there's local savings sitting in your mailbox right now? Money Pages is packed with real coupons from your favorite local businesses. Save money at restaurants like Al's Pizza, on pet care at Forever Vets, and on entertainment for the whole family at the Alhambra Theater. Plus, make sure to download the Money Pages app for savings on the go. Money Pages in your mailbox right now.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. When it's game time, Farah doesn't flinch. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Yes, it is. Thank you to Kevin Brockway of the Gainesville Sun, Gatorsports.com. Gator fans, we now know who you are playing. Friday night, scheduled tip time, 9:25 down in Tampa. It will be the Prairie View A&M Panthers. Prairie View gets it done tonight over Lehigh. It is the first NCAA tournament win ever for Prairie View. Now, again, I'm not going to do a deep dive into Prairie View because, I mean, it is what it is. But they're 19-17 on the year. They have wins over Biblical Study. Never heard of Biblical Study, but they beat them.
What?
Dallas. Not the Cowboys, but they beat Dallas earlier this year. They lost to Wichita State by 43. They lost to Oklahoma State by 27. They lost to Missouri by 18. They were competitive against Missouri. They beat all right, now it's personal. All right, I didn't have a gripe against Prairie View. I was happy for them. Dante Horn, their leading scorer, 25 points tonight in the victory over Lehigh. But as I look at the Prairie View schedule, they beat my alma mater in overtime earlier this year, back on Sunday, November the 23rd, in the Pensacola Invitational. It was Prairie View 85, UNF 82. This will not stand, man. And the dudes of Jeffrey Lebowski, in the words of the dude, this will not stand. So Prairie View did beat UNF. Trying to think if they beat anybody else. Nope. Then they started playing Champion Christian. Paul Quinn University. I don't know who Paul Quinn is, but they have victories over Dallas and Paul Quinn. They played a couple of SEC teams. As I said, Missouri beat Prairie View by 18. LSU beat them by 14. They were competitive with LSU.
Okay.
104-90, and then Texas A&M beat them by 29, 111-82. And then they got into conference play. To their credit, they had to win, 4 games in their SWAC tournament. They were 14-17 entering the tournament. They beat Alcorn State, they beat Bethune, they beat Alabama A&M, and they beat Southern in the championship game. I actually watched some of the Southern game. Southern beat FAMU in the semis. I was rooting for FAMU because of Charlie Ward, but Southern beat FAMU, Prairie View beat Southern. And then tonight, Prairie View beats Lehigh. So Prairie View is who the Gators get. On Friday, I will tell you, in the starting lineup, Prairie View does not have a guy taller than 6'8". So one would think that Ruben Chinyelu, Alex Condon, Thomas Houck, Micah Hanlogden are going to have a field day in the paint. We'll see. But all kidding aside, it is cool for that school to win their first tournament game, and you can tell how excited they are because the reporter on True TV goes up to their leading scorer, Horn, who had 25 just moments ago, and says, all right, we'll see you in Tampa to play the defending national champions. And he just had a smile on his face, and he's like, yes, ma'am. And so that's cool. Obviously, they're excited. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience for them.
Well, hold on. Wait a minute. You say all kidding aside. Hold on. Let me make sure I understand this. They beat a Bible study team.
Biblical study, yeah.
Yeah, they beat the Dallas Cowboys, and then they beat somebody named Paul Quinn.
Paul Quinn.
Oh, Paul Quinn.
Not Paul Crew, not the guy from Longest Yard. Paul Quinn University, Dallas, I guess it's Dallas University, and Biblical Study are 3 of their 19 wins on the year. They did play 3 SEC teams. I mean, they played Missouri, they played LSU, and they played Texas A&M. Now, A&M beat them by 29. LSU beat them by 14. Missouri beat them by 18. So that's who Florida's going to play, and then one would think Florida would win that game, and they will then get the winner of Clemson and Iowa. Again, 16 games tomorrow, 16 games on Friday, and then, of course, 8 on Saturday, 8 on Sunday. 4 consecutive days, right? Obviously, NFL Sundays will reign supreme. Super Bowl Sundays will reign supreme. But if you're talking about a 96-hour window from the sun rising on Thursday morning till the sun setting on Sunday evening, I don't know if there's not 4 better days on the sports calendar than rounds 1 and 2 of the NCAA tournament. I love it. Tomorrow at noon, I will be locked in from noon until probably 5:30 or 6. And then I'm fortunate enough to head out to Ponte Vedra to do Hacker After Dark at Mr. Chubby's Wings, which I'm certainly excited about being out on location tomorrow. Baloo will be there for End of the Night from 6 to 8. I'll be at Mr. Chubby's in Ponte Vedra from 8 to 10 with Hacker After Dark. And then on Friday, the same thing, except we're going to be at Top Dog Tavern over on Bartram off of Old St. Augustine from 6 o'clock till 10 o'clock. And that, of course, is when the Gators are going to play on Friday evening. They will be one of the final first-round games of the NCAA tournament. So that's 65 teams that are left. We'll have one more game in Dayton tipping off in about 20 minutes. The 31-1 Miami of Ohio, who has not beat a team ranked in the top 50 all year. They take on SMU for the final spot in the field of 64 of March Madness. Coming up next, let's get into the National Football League. Some more movement today in the NFL, including a move that the Cleveland Browns made earlier this evening that I really think Jacksonville should have considered. Maybe they did. Cleveland did something a couple hours ago that it's really one of the first times, at least this week, that I thought, that would have been a good move for the Jaguars. We'll talk about it next here on Hacker After Dark.
Slam dunk. 1010XL. 92.5 FM.
This is Dr. Kevin Kaplan, team physician for your Jacksonville Jaguars. At Orthopedic Specialists of Jacksonville, we know not every injury happens on game day. Sometimes it's rolling your ankle, weekend yard work, or just playing catch with your kids. That's why we built a team of fellowship-trained orthopedic surgeons, experts in everything from knees and shoulders to spine and sports injuries in hand. Whether you're chasing championships or chasing your dog, we've got you. Learn more at osjax.com. That's osjax.com.
Hey, Hicken here. I couldn't be any happier than to join the George Moore Chevrolet family. When I say family, I mean it. Visit their beautiful showroom today off Atlantic Boulevard. Find out exactly what I'm talking about. No pressure, just friendly help. And whether you want a car, a truck, SUV, electric, pre-owned, you name it, George Moore Chevrolet has it. And if you can't make it over to Atlantic Boulevard, no problem. MooreChevy.com is easy to navigate as any site you will try. It's never been more easy to use. George Moore Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
Let AA Automotive and 1010XL guide you through the off-season, brick by brick, building the perfect beast. Listen for free agency profiles, nailed down by Universal Roof and Contracting. Experience the universal difference.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
This free agency profile is covered by Universal Roof and Contracting. Experience the universal difference.
Jacksonville lies low in the free agent market and nails down some of their own. Cornerback Monteric Brown re-signs for 3 years and $33 million. The team in teal holds on to another corner, Christian Broswell, for 1 year and $1 million. And linebacker Dennis Gardeck stays in Duval for 2 years and $6.5 million.
At G&H Tires and Service, the G stands for great pricing. The H, well, that means honest service. For over 20 years, Roger and his team have helped Jacksonville drivers stay safe on the road. Need brakes, oil change, AC not blowing cold? Well, how about a super affordable $36 oil change? Affordable brake jobs, AC checks before summer hits, alignments for all these construction roads, and even free check engine light inspections. Locally owned, community driven. G&H Tires and Service on Beach Boulevard.
Get ready for spring turkey season at Green Acres Sporting Goods. Find shotguns trusted in the field from Browning, Beretta, and Benelli. Plus, the newest bows are ready to test shoot from Hoyt and Matthews. For over 55 years, Green Acres Sporting Goods has helped Northeast Florida hunters gear up with confidence. Stop by Green Acres today at the corner of Normandy and Hammond Boulevard or shop online anytime at greenacresporting.com.
Alert! Alert! Termite swarms are active right now in Jacksonville, and once they get inside, damage can happen fast. Termites don't knock, they silently attack the structure of your home, leaving behind costly repairs and long-term headaches. Protect what you've worked hard for with the proven protection homeowners trust. Terminix with advanced termite treatment and prevention solutions. Visit Terminix.com and schedule your free termite inspection today.
When your home or business deserves more than ordinary glass, you trust the experts. Capital Glass and Shower Doors has been elevating spaces for over 40 years with precision, craftsmanship, and clean, modern design. From sleek frameless shower enclosures to elegant glass railings, wine cabinets, and any custom glass that makes a statement, Capital Glass delivers unmatched quality, service, and attention to detail. Your vision, their expertise. Capital Glass and Shower Doors at capcoglass.com.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Focused, fueled, fearless, Farah. Hacker, After Dark on 1010XL.
Halftime, Hacker After Dark, 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. We'll take you up till 10 o'clock as we do every night here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM. Jared Bailey of SB Nation and the host of the Pump Fake podcast, talking Jaguars and NFL off season. He joins me coming up here in about 10 minutes or so. Couple of NFL thoughts, but quickly I saw this. So every year, as we know, the previous year's champion of the Masters tournament at Augusta gets to choose the dinner menu, the champion's dinner, right? So Rory McIlroy, who won the Masters last year, finally getting that elephant off his back and winning at Augusta, has come out with the menu for the Masters champion's dinner. And it looks delightful. Here's what we got. Appetizers include peach and ricotta flatbread, rock shrimp tempura, bacon-wrapped dates, and grilled elk sliders. For the first course, you can have yellowfin tuna. Then the main course, you can have a choice of a Wagyu filet mignon on seared salmon, Dessert is sticky toffee pudding. And then there's a couple of other things, and it says courtesy of the Masters champion Rory McIlroy. And that all sounds wonderful. Look, there's not a day that goes by that I don't get up and think, well, today would be a good day for peach ricotta flatbread. Maybe I'll throw in there some grilled elk sliders. And certainly, I could not go a day without some bacon-wrapped dates. Here's my question. If I were to win the Masters tournament, I just simply wanted chili dogs, right? Chili dogs and tater tots. And if I'm putting together the Masters champions dinner and these guys in these green jackets and really nice, sharp-looking men come out and say, all right, Mr. Green or Mr. Hacker, whatever you want to call me, it's time for you to put the menu together. And you say, yeah, I just want chili dogs, maybe some tater tots.
Would you get that from your son, Hack?
Like,
what is
slice of peanut butter pie, something like that? No, I mean, I want to go with stuff that I mean, come on. Bacon wrapped dates? Are you kidding me? Grilled elk sliders? What are we doing, man?
The thing I'm confused. What is it? Peach ricotta flatbread?
Peach and ricotta flatbread.
What?
I have no idea.
What?
That's what I'm talking about. Give me a piece of pepperoni flatbread or a pepperoni pizza, and I'm good to go.
Is it? I mean, is it like a slice of peach or like what?
Your guess is as good as mine, man. I'm just reading the menu the way it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, when you look at this menu, and it's this way every year, and I kid because I care. I know Augusta's a sophisticated place. But I just think it would be hilarious if one year somebody just said, hey, you know, we could have grilled elk sliders next year. We could have, you know, bacon wrapped dates and seared salmon and stuff next year. Just get us a couple of corn dogs and a couple of chicken nuggets and we're good to go. That would be my Masters champions dinner. I just don't know how well that would be received. I mentioned this earlier. The Cleveland Browns today signed A.J. Epinesa from the Buffalo Bills. 1 year, $5 million. Epinesa, an edge rusher for Buffalo, getting up there in age a little bit. Jaguar fans, you might remember him. He caused havoc to the Jaguars during a game in London a couple of years ago. Just the Jaguars couldn't block him. And he single-handedly basically changed the tide of the Jaguars-Bills game in London a few years ago. And he was signed by Cleveland today, 1 year, $5 million. And that was one for the first time this week that I thought, man, you know, the Jaguars, look, they got Trayvon Walker and Hines Allen, and that's all great. But Walker had injury problems last year. Hines Allen, although I thought he was good, did not have great numbers as far as sacks and whatnot. You got a couple of young guys and Danny Strigow and B.J. Green. You bring back Dennis Gardeck. I mean, I'm not super over the top, you know, worried about the edge rush position. But having said that, I would like to add a couple of guys. And the Jaguars obviously have added no one in free agency on the defensive side of the ball, whereas they have lost Devin Lloyd, Greg Newsome, Andrew Wingard. They're not going to re-sign Emmanuel Ogbah. Looks like they're not going to re-sign DeJuan Smoot. Looks like they're not going to re-sign Austin Johnson. And you know what that means? It means it's going to be a very defensive-heavy draft for the Jacksonville Jaguars coming up next month. But the Epinesa one to Cleveland was one for the first time in the last couple of days. I thought, that would have been nice, but I think that would have cost Jacksonville a compensatory pick. And we know how General Manager James Gladstone feels about those compensatory picks. Let's talk about that. Let's continue that conversation. Jarrett Bailey of SB Nation. He's also the host of the Pump Fake podcast. Jarrett is one of the national guys that has fought the good fight for Jacksonville and for Trevor Lawrence for many, many years. Although James Gladstone's comments last week, Jarrett didn't really agree with. He went on social media with it, what he thought about what Gladstone had to say. And Jaguar Twitter, he kind of went after Jarrett Bailey a little bit. So we'll give him a chance to explain himself in an open forum here next on Hacker After Dark. A Wednesday night in Northeast Florida. Jacksonville, we're glad you're with us till 10 o'clock on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Serving one of the fastest growing cities in America.
It don't get no better than this.
I guess it's no longer a best kept secret. 1010XL, Jacksonville Sports Radio.
If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Miller Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
Hoops action continues this Friday. Enjoy the madness with the shows of 1010XL. Watch the Friday games at the tournament and enjoy food and drink specials all day. Starting with Helmets and Heels, live from Big Dog's Tavern on Blanding Boulevard. Then join the Frangie Show at Fourscore, a golf tavern on Gate Parkway from 4 to 6. Then finish the day with Into the Night with Rick Ballou and Hacker After Dark at Top Dog Tavern on Old St. Augustine Road. Now that's the way to celebrate hoops.
Home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Kubota keeps the job site running smoothly with the #1 selling compact excavator lineup in the world. Reliable, capable, and backed by strong dealer support. Stop by today to power up your crew. Right now, bring home select Kubota excavators with 0% financing available or save up to $4,800. Now through March 31st. See us or go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
Visit Coastal Equipment in Jacksonville and McClenny to reach your North Florida Kubota Superstore.
This is Jeff Middlecoff with Cogent Bank. My associate Ryan Salem and I joined Cogent Bank because we wanted to revolutionize the mortgage business, just like Cogent Bank has revolutionized the banking business. So Ryan Salem and I are able to leverage the power and stability of Cogent Bank to go out and find our clients the best investors, the best products, and the best rates in the entire country for your particular mortgage loan. Of course, you don't have to be a customer at Cogent Bank to take advantage of our mortgage services to buy or refinance your home. We offer jumbo loans, VA, FHA, conventional, and investment loans. At Cogent Bank, we offer mortgages nationwide, so we can help you with a second home or help a family member who lives or is moving to another state. Call Ryan Salem or myself, Jeff Middlecoff, at Cogent Bank today, 904-442-9191, to see how we can help you with any of your mortgage loan needs, whatever or wherever they may be.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender, Cogent Bank, NMLS ID 402296, Ryan Salem, NMLS ID 1182429, Jeff Middlecoff, NMLS ID 249086.
You know, Mr. Chubby's Wings is giving away free beer again this year for the Madness Tournament.
Do they really give you a free pint of Budweiser for each game you pick right?
Yes, all you got to do is fill out your bracket now at 1010XL.com. Overall winner gets tickets to Welcome to Rockville on Saturday. But for free beer, just download your bracket, print it out, and bring it into any Mr. Chubby's Wings location during the games. Every game you pick right, you get a free beer.
Go to 1010XL.com now. It's the Free Beer Chubby Madness Bracket Challenge. See Mr. Chubby's Wings Facebook for full contest details.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still present, ready. Farah doesn't flinch. Here's another call on the 1010XL hotline, driven by Key Buick GMC, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us over a weekend of free agency. Obviously, not a lot of movement as far as guys coming into Jacksonville. Only Chris Rodriguez so far. Certainly there was some movement with guys exiting Jacksonville. We'll talk about that. We'll also look around the rest of the AFC South as well. Jared Bailey of SB Nation. He's also the host of the Pump Fake podcast. And Jared's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Jared, how we doing, man?
I'm doing well outside of the fact that, Pittsburgh's in the midst of third winter. It was very nice this past week, and then it began to snow. So it's we're in that transitional phase between winter and spring, and I'm just hoping this is the last time I see snow until, November.
It was 92 in Jacksonville last week. Earlier this week, it was 57. So, yeah, it was a weird weather going on all over the place. No question about that. All right, I got to ask you right out of the gate, you became friends with some Jaguar Twitter folks last week. James Gladstone held his press conference where he was talking about, accumulating compensatory picks after the departures of Devin Lloyd and Travis Etienne and Greg Newsome. I think that was received a lot better here locally than it was nationally. What was your take on what Gladstone had to say last week?
I do find it kind of annoying that out of anybody nationally over the last like 3 years, I have pounded the table about the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence. And then the one time I disagree with something they do, everybody gets their pitchforks out, and that's what everybody remembers. It does irritate me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I didn't like it. This is a team that won 13 games last year. It came very close to winning a playoff game, and then loses two of their five most important players in Travis Etienne and Devin Lloyd. And to, just publicly say, yeah, we're not really worried about, making up for that because we want comp picks. Like, I understand it as a long-term, point of view and whatnot, but like to be competitive in 2026, man, like you gotta recoup those players. You gotta figure out who's gonna make up all the offense that HN is leaving behind going to New Orleans. You're gonna have to figure out who's going to take the spot of Devin Lloyd, and just to, kind of sit on your hands when it comes to that, it's not a great look. And, I use the word stupid when I said it, and people push back on me for that. And that's completely fair. Saying that it's a stupid thing to do, if you, think that that's not the proper adjective to describe it, that's fine. But I don't love the optics of it and just blatantly saying, yeah, we're not in a rush to, sign any big contracts to replace those players because we want, the 100th pick in the 2027 NFL draft. I don't like that. So, Jacksonville's a team that, again, made a lot of noise last year, won a lot of games. And when they lose two of their five best players, and they're not going to be aggressive to recoup on any of that, it's not optics or a strategy that I like.
Jared Bailey, SB Nation. He's also the host of the Pump Fake podcast. And I will completely vouch for Jared. You nationally have been one of the guys that has really been supportive of Trevor Lawrence in particular and a lot of what the Jaguars are doing here. So I will completely agree with you on that. I guess from my standpoint, being here every day, we had already prepared ourselves for Devin Lloyd and Travis. I'll still call him ETN. I guess it is H-Chan now. That kind of caught all of us out of left field last week for Travis leaving as well. Because, look, they're still cleaning up Trent Baalke's mess here and all these dead money issues that they have to deal with for ridiculous contracts that Baalke saddled Gladstone and Cohen with. Mm-hmm. Plus, Jared, I guess you have to think, too, Anton Harrison, right? You also got Antonio Johnson. You got Parker Washington. You got Brenton Strange. You got all these guys that are eligible for contract extensions, so they're going to need money to be able to do that down the line.
And that's completely fair. Seeing the work that Trent Baalke did to that front office and to, their money situation, that is a completely fair pushback on what I've been saying. It does mean that they're going to have to draft well. And, looking at what Gladstone did last year with the Travis Hunter trade, that's not exactly, something that looks good right about now when he, came out and said, all right, we're giving up a first round pick, but we're getting a player who plays two positions. Well, Travis Hunter's going to play very much, an 85-15 defense to receiver ratio at this point. So that seems, even at the time when they made the trade, a lot of people didn't like it. Now, more so, just considering what we know about Travis Hunter's role going forward. So they're going to have to draft well. And, Gladstone came from a place in the Rams who do draft very well. So we'll see. And, I'll keep – I do want to make it clear. I do like James Gladstone as a general manager. I think he'll do a good job. But we're going to see in this upcoming draft and this season, based off of, the class that he brought in last year, how good is he at drafting when he's the guy in charge? And they're going to have, they're going to have to do a really good job to recoup some of the players that they've lost. So time will tell.
21 draft picks for the Jaguars, 11 this year, already 10 next year. We'll see if they use all of those. Of course, Gladstone has proven very quickly he'll make a trade on you. The 4th and the 6th rounder for Jacoby Myers last year, a 6th rounder for Tim Patrick last year. So we'll see if anything is in the works. Quickly with Chris Rodriguez, I'm not saying he's going to be a Pro Bowler in 2026, but Jarrett, talking to people up in Washington, this was a guy that averaged 4.5 yards per carry, was a guy that had 500 yards rushing and 6 touchdowns last year, and was a guy that just wasn't used a whole lot in Cliff Kingsbury's offense. He is familiar with Liam Cohen from their time at Kentucky. So I guess if nothing else, Rodriguez is intriguing coming down here to Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean, he's fine. Like I said, 4.5 carries, 6 touchdowns on the ground. He's a good utility back. I'm not expecting him to set the world on fire. I expect Bashal Tutin to be kind of the 1A and Rodriguez to be the 1B. And, we've seen running games in the NFL kind of lean more toward that two-headed ground attack over the last number of years, especially last year when we saw what Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet did with the Seahawks, and it ended up with them winning a Super Bowl. So if you can get two guys that play off each other well, I think Tutin's the better receiving back, with Rodriguez being the more run-focused guy. If they play off each other well and they fit in the offense, then it could certainly work out, especially with what Liam Cohen wants to do, which is, a lot of that running back involved in the passing game type of stuff we saw with HN last year. So it certainly could work. But again, I don't expect Chris Rodriguez to blow anybody out of the water, but he doesn't have to. If he does what he did in Washington, which is be a really good supplementary back, comes in, does his job, and helps Bashal Tutin out in the passing game, then they got a solid player for what they're paying him. So could end up working out. Like I said, I don't expect it to be, a 1,000-yard rusher or anything like that, but certainly a guy that, if used properly, can be a nice piece in the offense.
Couple more for Jared Bailey, SB Nation, and the host of the Pump Fake podcast. You look around the division, Jared. I mean, Houston, the David Montgomery trade is certainly interesting. They traded away some offensive linemen. They also added a few in free agency. From what you've seen of the Texans thus far this offseason, what are your thoughts?
They're doing a lot of the same stuff they did last year on the offensive line, which is get rid of a lot of guys and completely retool it again. And to be fair, the offensive line, especially in the first half of the year, was really bad. So I get it to that extent. But they traded Laramie Tunsil at the beginning of last offseason. Now they're trading Tyus Howard at the beginning of this offseason. Doesn't make a lot of sense for me in that regard, where, in each of the last 2 offseasons, you're trading away your best offensive lineman. So they got a lot to figure out, and bringing in David Montgomery, I think that's good. You get a quality running back to help out CJ Stroud. It's not something that they had last year. Woody Marks is a fine player, but he's not. I use this analogy a lot. I don't think there's any defensive coordinator staring at his ceiling the night before a game thinking, how in God's name do I stop Woody Marks? There's going to be a few that sit there and say, all right, how are we going to stop David Montgomery? Because he's very good. So that's an upgrade at that position. And look, if they can fix the offensive line, we've seen what CJ Stroud's capable of. And I know a lot of people are overreacting to how he played in the postseason. He did not play well, had, fumbled the ball a lot, threw a bunch of interceptions against New England. I get it. He did not play well. But to all of a sudden sit here and say, oh, this guy's a bum, that's a massive overreaction. I could show you a Peyton Manning playoff game where the Jets beat him by 30. And if social media existed back then, Peyton Manning would have been absolutely crucified for that. So I'm not worried too much about CJ Stroud. That's not to say that he's still on that top 6 to 8 quarterback conversation like it was after his rookie season, and he has a lot to prove, but I'm not worried about him all of a sudden falling off a cliff. They need to get the offensive line right. They needed to get the running game right. And starting by getting David Montgomery is a good way to go.
As far as Indianapolis, they've brought a lot of guys back. They chose Alec Pierce over Michael Pittman. Pittman to Pittsburgh. Pierce gets huge money. They bring Daniel Jones back, hopefully that Achilles will be better and obviously healed by the time the regular season starts. What have been your thoughts on the Colts so far?
I've hated their offseason, man. Alec Pierce is a fine player. I like salmon too. I wouldn't pay $400 for a piece of salmon. You know what I mean? Giving him more money than Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith and Nico Collins, and I don't mean this in a mean way, but for all intents and purposes, Alec Pierce does one thing really, really well, and that's run downfield and catch long passes. And he averages, 20 yards a catch, and that's great. He had 47 catches, man. We gotta put things in perspective here, and they severely overpaid him. And looking at what they did with Daniel Jones, like you're banking. We've seen two really bad examples of what quarterbacks off Achilles injuries look like, and Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins. And I understand that they're older than Daniel Jones, but paying Daniel Jones that kind of money after 6 years of him being a terrible quarterback compared to 7 games where he didn't look terrible, that's a horrible waste of resources in both Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce. And it's not to say that Daniel Jones can't play to the level that he was before he got hurt, but the amount of money that they've put into him and Alec Pierce, combined with the fact that, they gave up 2 firsts for Sauce Gardner, they had better hope that all of this works out, because if it doesn't, they are going to be screwed when it comes to trying to replenish a lot of these positions, because they don't have the draft capital over the next couple years to do it. So I haven't liked what they've done at all. I think running back what fell apart last season is a really bad move. And it could end up costing Chris Ballard his job, but we've said that a lot over the past decade, and he hasn't gone anywhere. So I'm not going to hold my breath on that, nor am I wishing for it to happen, but I just don't see this ending great.
Yeah, started to see them lose some pieces too. Zaire Franklin's gone. Braden Smith is gone. We'll see what ultimately happens. And then finally with Tennessee, look, they had $1 billion to spend, and to their credit, they spent it. But you talk about overpaying guys. I look at some of the contracts that Wan'Dale Robinson got, Alontae Taylor. I mean, these guys are good, I suppose, but good grief, they were handing out $60 million contracts like they were going out of style.
Yeah, the Wan'Dale Robinson thing, it was pretty much penned in back, at the combine, where it's like, all right, yeah, he's probably just going to go back with Brian Dable. And, they needed people to give, or for Cam Ward to throw the ball to. I mean, you look at their receiving core last year, it was the worst in football. So did they overpay for Wan'Dale Robinson? Maybe a little bit, but, I think it was, $19 million a year for him. When you look at the receiver market, he's quietly had 90-plus catches in each of the last 2 seasons. So that's not all that bad. Alontae Taylor's a really good nickel, so I'm not worried too much about that. They needed upgrades. And when you have the money to spend, and when you have a quarterback on a rookie contract, you could afford to make those overpays a little bit. And I'm not too worried about that to that extent. I like a lot of the moves that they've made along the defensive line and on defense as a whole. They need to make a few more moves for guys for Cam Ward to throw the ball to. But as a whole right now, I've liked the moves that they've made, even if they've overpaid for a couple of guys, because, again, that's a roster that was just so void of talent that in order to lure some of the guys there, you had to give them a few extra bucks, and they knew that. So along with, the rebrand that I actually really like, I think they look worlds better than the uniforms they had before. I think it's been a pretty solid week for the Titans. Not expecting them to be a playoff team, but, we weren't expecting the Commanders to be in the NFC title game in 2024. We weren't expecting the Texans to be a playoff team in 2023. If you get the quarterback right, and if you get the coach or the coaching staff right with a few good moves, you can turn things around pretty quickly. I think Cam Ward is the right guy there. And if they do a couple more things on the offensive side of the ball to help him out, they could turn things around.
Final question, Jared. We got 60 seconds. Who's had the best free agency period, in your opinion?
Not to, sound like a homer, but I really like what the Steelers have done. They traded for Michael Pittman, as you mentioned. They signed Jamel Dean, who you could argue is the best cornerback on the market. They signed Jaquan Brisker, who was one of the best safeties on the market. They've made a few internal signings in Asante Samuel at cornerback to really help make that secondary even deeper. Brought back Cole Holcomb at linebacker, who's a fine rotational guy. Sebastian Joseph Day from Tennessee, who's going to be their top rotational defensive lineman, especially in passing downs. I really like what they've done. Kansas City really only made one huge move in bringing in Kenneth Walker, but considering their run game was the worst in the NFL last year, and bringing in the Super Bowl MVP and a really good running back is a good way to fix that. So I like what they've done. So those are, kind of the top 2. I'd have to get the moves in front of me to kind of see, who I like more. The Los Angeles Rams, it goes without saying, the moves that they've made have been awesome. Just stealing the Chiefs' starting secondary is kind of funny. Trading for Trent McDuffie, signing Jalen Watson. The 49ers bringing in Mike Evans to an offense that they made it to the divisional round last year despite all their injuries and relying on guys like Kendrick Bourne and Demarcus Robinson. If they can stay healthy offensively, or at least mostly healthy, which has been a ginormous if for them over the last number of years, then they can make some real noise. And having a real number one in Mike Evans certainly helps that a lot. But yeah, those are some of the teams I've really enjoyed. Looking down the list right now, I don't think anybody else jumps out too much. Got to throw the Broncos in there now after the trade they made for Jalen Waddle. But yeah, those are a handful of teams whose off seasons I've liked a lot so far.
Jared Bailey, SB Nation, and the Pump Fake Podcast. Jared, tell the good folks here in Jacksonville where and when they can find your work.
Yeah, if you want to yell at me for Jaguars thoughts on Twitter, at JBaileyNFL on Twitter. Subscribe to the youtube.com/@JBaileyNFL to watch the Pump Fake with me and Todd Haley. We are almost at 10,000 subscribers, so get us to 10,000 here in the next month or so, or in the next couple weeks. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter for everything at JBaileyNFL. Read all the work at SB Nation.
Hey, Jared, I know you're busy, man. Thank you for the time. We'll talk again soon, pal.
No problem, man. Have a good one.
I want winners.
Who really wants to win?
Who's a winner? I said, who's a winner?
1010XL. I want winners. 92.5 FM.
Winning feels good. I really like winning.
All right, Jacksonville, spring has officially arrived when the pollen's flying, the grass is growing, and your septic system starts thinking about getting your attention. Trust me, a simple pump out now can save you from a disaster that'll have the whole neighborhood holding their noses. That's why you call Duck Duck Rooter the only master septic contractor in Northeast Florida. Real pros, not somebody guessing with a shovel. Right now, schedule your spring septic clean and get $50 off septic tank pumping. So when you're stuck, call the Duck, 904-862-6769 or duckduckrooter.com.
Been in a car crash? I'm local attorney Rick Alexander, and I've made it our mission at the Alexander Law Practice to listen to you so I can fight for the best possible result for you. I've been practicing over 30 years, and our team focuses on guiding you through the entire process. And because fees and reimbursement costs come out at the end of the case, I will never ask you to come out of pocket. For a free review, call 904-400-6600 or log on to alexanderlawpractice.com, Jacksonville.
Hi, folks. Frank Frangie. Join Hayes Carline and me live on location from the Fourscore Golf Tavern. Kick off your weekend with real madness and join us 4 to 6 this Friday for the Frangie Show, live from the new Fourscore Golf Tavern on Gate Parkway.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. When it's game time, Farah doesn't flinch. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Thank you to Jared Bailey of SB Nation for joining us tonight here on Hacker After Dark. More Jaguar conversation coming up later on in the week. Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4, Daniel Griffiths, Action Sports, maybe JP Shadrick as well, Jaguars.com, Jaguars Radio. Who really knows what we'll have for you tomorrow night and Friday here on Hacker After Dark. I do know tomorrow night we will be at Mr. Chubby's Wings in Ponte Vedra. Looking forward to that. Into the night with Rick Ballou and Hacker After Dark, 6 o'clock until 10 o'clock for round one, Thursday night, NCAA tournament. Come join us out at Mr. Chubby's in Ponte Vedra as we will be out there. And hopefully by the time I hit the air at 8 o'clock, my bracket will not be busted. My final four: Duke, Virginia, Arizona, Houston. I have the Gators getting knocked out in the Elite Eight by Houston. And then my national championship game, I got all Big 12 with Houston and Arizona. And I have the Arizona Wildcats winning the college basketball national championship. That's the college side. The NBA postseason is also right around the corner. Most NBA teams have between 13 and 15 games remaining in their regular season, including Orlando, who currently sits 38-30. They are 6 games, or in the 6th place in the Eastern Conference. But what's weird about Orlando, over the next 14 games, they could finish anywhere from 4th in the East all the way to 10th in the East. Dante Marchitelli of the FanDuel Sports Network. He and David Steele and Jeff Turner do a terrific job with the Orlando Magic coverage. In fact, we have a lot of Orlando Magic games on the radio. This is the TV side. Dante joins me next to talk Orlando Magic and a little NBA playoff picture as well. On a Wednesday night in Northeast Florida, a March Madness Eve. By the way, Gator fans, it will be Prairie View, as Prairie View knocked off Lehigh earlier tonight in Dayton, Florida, and Prairie View in the round of 64 Friday night. In Tampa, NBA Talk with Dante Marchitelli of the FanDuel Sports Network next on Hacker After Dark.
From the green flag to glory lane.
It's showtime.
Hold your breath and hang on tight. Sunday at Darlington, powered by the Plumbers and Pipefitters Local Union 234 on Jacksonville's voice of NASCAR. 1010XL.
Rick Ballou here with a congratulations for John's Auto. They've been in business in Jacksonville for 40 years. That's right, going all the way back to 1985. Right now, they'd like to thank each and every one of you who's ever gotten their vehicle serviced at John's Auto. So, car, truck, or diesel, all makes, all models, whether it's a routine maintenance or a complete engine overhaul, go to John's Auto on Arlington Road, johnautomotivejacks.com.
You know, Mr. Chubby's Wings is giving away free beer again this year for the Madness Tournament.
Do they really give you a free pint of Budweiser for each game you pick right?
Yes, all you got to do is fill out your bracket now at 1010XL.com. Overall winner gets tickets to Welcome to Rockville on Saturday. But for free beer, just download your bracket, print it out, and bring it into any Mr. Chubby's Wings location during the games. Every game you pick right, you get a free beer.
Go to 1010XL.com now. It's the Free Beer Chubby Madness Bracket Challenge. See Mr. Chubby's Wings Facebook for full contest details.
Hello, First Coast. I'm sure by now you have seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We're an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We're committed to customer service, reliability, and have an unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today from GFL, Green for Life.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Focused, fueled, fearless, Farah. Now, the Monahan's golden moment. Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach, your local family jewelers.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. Boy, all the talk about the NCAA tournament approaching that you look. And boy, the NBA regular season is rapidly coming to a conclusion. Most teams have less than 15 games to go in the regular season. It's all about playoff positioning. And when it comes to the Orlando Magic, what has been certainly an up and down year to this point, they will find themselves in the postseason. But there's a lot of questions. They could probably be as high as the 4 seed in the East, could probably be as low as the 9 or 10 seed in the East. In the next 14 games will tell the tale. Let's go to Central Florida. One of our guys when it comes to the Orlando Magic is Dante Marchitelli of the FanDuel Sports Network. And Dante is always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Dante, how we doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Ryan. It's always good to talk to you. And, boy, you aren't kidding. This is going to be one heck of a finish. I think this race in the Eastern Conference and probably some races in the West, we're not going to know what happens till game 82 this year. So it's going to set up for some great basketball here down the stretch.
Dante, what a roller coaster for the season.
Oh.
And I mean, that's coming from my perspective in Jacksonville. You're there every day. You're either on the call of these games, on the sideline for these games, or in the studio for these games. You're living it every day. But from the injuries to the losing streaks to the winning streaks, I mean, it has been a true roller coaster for Orlando this year.
Well, you said it, Ryan. That's really what it's been. I mean, you look at the start of the season, everyone had this Magic team probably locked into the top 4, you know, if they were able to stay healthy, if they didn't have the injuries that they've had, if things kind of broke their way, if a number of guys had breakout seasons. And unfortunately, it's just been the case for the last 3 or 4 years. They've just been snake bitten with injuries and to key guys and for key stretches. And that's been hard to overcome. Then you throw in a trip to Europe, you throw in a surprise trip to Vegas, you know, for this team, making it to the semifinals of the NBA Cup. So they've had some crazy travel. They've had 5-6 game road trips, and the longest homestand has been 4 games. So the schedule makers have not been kind to them. But through it all, you don't make excuses. You got to put your head down and then try to find a way to battle through. But not having Franz Wagner the last couple of weeks, hopefully you get him back before the playoffs. Anthony Black having a breakout year, then went through a couple of weeks where he was struggling, and then he's out with an abdominal strain. So you just kind of been hit with it. Through it all, Desmond Bain has been incredible. You did have about 60 incredible games from Anthony Black where he showed what he's capable of. And Paolo Banchero, since this, you got to go back to January 1st, and the numbers that he is putting up, the 25-plus points, the 8 rebounds, 5 assists, it's only him and Jokic that are doing it during that stretch, and so it's just amazing what Paolo has been able to do. And so now you're clinging on to 9th a couple of weeks ago, then you're 1 game out of 4th a couple of days ago. It has exactly been a roller coaster, and it will be. It will continue to be the final 14 games.
Dante Marchitelli of the FanDuel Sports Network talking Orlando Magic. Dante, I rewind the clock back to December 7th at Madison Square Garden when Franz Wagner went down. And I remember going on social media because I had an Orlando Magic mental breakdown as a fan that night. And I blamed my uncle for taking me to a game back in 1989. I'm like, for the last 36 years, it's the same thing every single year. But I love them. I can't stop it. I am obsessed with the Orlando Magic. But these injuries, man, I mean, 14%. 14% of the games Paolo, Suggs, and Wagner have played together over the last 2+ years. There comes a point in life where you just throw up your hands and you say, what the heck?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And that's why, for all the, all the naysayers and everyone that wants to, the detractors and everyone that wants to be hard on Paolo and be hard on Coach Mosley, be hard on, kind of the organization. You're talking 14%. I don't know what coach, Ryan, can 2 games ago, you're 10 games over 500 with those 3 having played 14% of the games together. I mean, think about that. I don't know what other coach you can give them their top 3 guys for 14% and they're going to make the playoffs. And then the second year, they're going to be 10 games over, tracking towards another postseason. So I think it's remarkable what Coach Mosley has done and what this group has done. But you look at Paolo Banchero, every single year post All-Star break, he's been incredible as well. So these guys continue to find a way. They continue to battle, but I get it. I get the frustration. Even the year that the Magic went to the finals in 2009, you lost Jameer Nelson that year.
Yeah.
So even he wasn't available, and he tried to come back during the finals. So it certainly has, it's certainly been met with the myriad of injuries, and just with this group. You get it when you're kind of rebuilding and you're not trying to win, so to speak, and you're trying to get the draft pick and guys are allowed to sit maybe when they could play, or, you kind of understand that. So, but now you need them, there's none of that going on now. If guys can play, they have to play. Look at Desmond Bain. He hasn't missed a game all year. He's never done that. And now his 6th NBA season. It's the first time that's ever happened. And last night he tied 3rd most games played in the season. He's been an Iron Man. That guy has battled. And if anybody needs a day off, it's that guy. And Paolo Banchero, he missed the 10 games with the groin injury earlier in the season. But since then, he has been absolutely locked in, hasn't missed a game. So they need help, Ryan. I think the second unit is a big problem right now. They were chipping in just enough during that 7-game win streak. But we got to find a way to get some help for Bain and Banchero.
Dante Marchitelli with us here on 1010XL. Quickly, when it comes to Franz Wagner, Anthony Black, I guess you could lump Jonathan Isaac in there as well. Those are the 3 that are currently out. Yeah. There's only 14 games to go, Dante, in the regular season. What are we thinking about Franz, AB, and Isaac? Are we going to see them again?
Well, we're remaining hopeful. You heard Jamal Mosley yesterday said Franz Wagner is back on the court. He's on the floor. He's not doing contact stuff, so he's kind of going through some light stuff on the floor. And you mentioned it, that game back on December 7th in New York. Boy, I tell you, when we saw that injury, didn't you think that was it? Just felt like that was it for Franz when you saw that injury. Probably not going to come back this year. So we were blown away when we found out it was a high ankle sprain, and it just has been lingering. So hopefully you can get him to do some contact stuff in a couple of weeks. And, maybe if you're lucky, you're looking at a week, maybe a week and a half that he can play, get a couple of games under his belt before you go into the playoffs. But, you got to be realistic too. And you got to start thinking, are there scenarios where he doesn't come back? So I think you gotta look at all things and see where he's feeling depending on how he progresses. I'd be shocked if we got Jonathan Isaac back anytime soon. You know, that knee sprain, just the way it felt and the way he felt when he landed. You got to give that plenty of time. And then Anthony Black is just, it's hard to know. I mean, he's not able to do much right now. It's kind of another core muscle injury. So he's got to go through his paces. He's got to get on the floor. He's got to take contact. He's got to go through some practices. So I'm optimistic. I feel like you're going to get at least two, if not all three of them back before the playoffs. But you also have to be realistic. And, you know, just given our track record, Ryan, unfortunately, you could probably start looking at scenarios where you don't get them back.
You know, Dante, you mentioned Desmond Bain. I remember I was with my wife in Las Vegas last summer. We were going to see a Kenny Chesney concert out at the Sphere, which was fantastic, by the way.
That is amazing. That sounds amazing.
It was
wow.
very, very cool. And I remember waking up that morning out in Vegas, being on West Coast time, and seeing Desmond Bain to Orlando for KCP, Cole Anthony, and 4 first-round picks. And I thought I had too much to drink the night before because I'm rubbing the sleep out of my eyes. They did what? I knew about Desmond Bain, right? But 4 first-rounders, I thought, holy moly. I will tell you, man, Desmond Bain, year one, obviously there's a lot more to do. But for me, he has surpassed my expectations. I think he's been fantastic.
Well, amen to that. To the point that we've said many times on the broadcast, maybe we should have sent a 5th or a 6th first-round pick to get him. But, you know, a lot is made of those picks. You don't even know what those picks will end up being, right? A lot of times you hold on to them, you hoard them. They you know, theoretically they should be late first-rounders because the Magic would be making the postseason. So you don't know what kind of a player you're going to get there anyway, and you get a guy that's a borderline all-star. Desmond Bain has been absolutely on a tear since his first 10 games in the season. He hit that game winner against Portland on his 10th game of the season, and since then it's been about a span of about 55 games where he's averaging almost 24 points a game and almost 50% from 3. I mean, he's been incredible. We knew about the shooting, right? You knew that with Desmond Bain. You knew he's about a 40% career three-point shooter. And I think we knew a little bit about the playmaking. We knew if he took his numbers from last year on this Magic team, he would have led the Magic in assists. So we knew he had that playmaking ability. I don't know that I had any idea his ability to finish at the rim. And the ability to shoot threes. You go back to the start of last year, he's one of 5 players in the NBA that's made 300 threes and 300 layups. I mean, it's unbelievable. His ability to finish right hand, left hand in traffic. But I think even more than all that, Ryan, for this young team, boy, he brings a steadying, a calming influence. He's a savvy veteran. He brings toughness. He brings grit. You know, if guys are chirping at him or if he's feeling a certain kind of way, we've seen him fire the basketball at people. We've seen him get just a tough. He doesn't back down from anybody, and it comes from that frame. You know, he's so solid. You can't knock him off course when he's attacking the rim. Gets to the second in the NBA in free throw percentage, right? He's going to finish the season with the best free throw percentage by a Magic player in a season in franchise history. He's going to, if he keeps this up, he's going to edge out Darrell Armstrong, which is amazing. So he's been better than advertised. He's already up to 39% from 3, but when it's winning time, that's what he calls it. He wants the basketball in his hands, and he's come through more times than not.
No, I think it's a great point. You look at the better teams in the East, whether it's Detroit, Boston, Cleveland, they got a couple of those no-nonsense, gritty guys that'll mix it up with you. Orlando might have been lacking that in years past. Desmond Bain is bringing that grit, that physicality, as you mentioned. Dante, as we begin to wrap up, you know, whether it's fair or not, you know this better than anybody, living that life every day, that fans want to get out of the first round of the NBA playoffs. I mean, that's the expectation. And with the knowledge that Mike Malone is available, obviously his dad, Brennan, was a Magic assistant for many, many years. I mean, there's a lot of talk about Jamal Mosley. And if they don't get out of round 1 with Malone being available, could that potentially be an interesting situation moving forward?
Well, I think you look at all things, and I think they this front office will always reevaluate at the end of the season. But in my opinion, that would be a giant mistake. I mean, when you look at what this guy has done, no matter who has been in uniform, he just hasn't had guys, and the front office has to look at that. You know, we have not given you a full arsenal since you've been here. I think he had 1 year of somewhat decent health, and the team won 47 games and was 1 game away from hosting that first round series against Cleveland, won 3 games at home. And if you're hosting that first round series, you probably beat the Cavs, right? So you missed that by 1 game, and then you've been decimated with injuries ever since. So that should hopefully factor in with what's been done. The guys rave about him. I know everybody wants to make a big deal out of Paolo and Franz and Paolo and Mose during the season, but these guys are competitors. These guys want to win. No one wants to get out of the first round more than everyone in that uniform and Coach Mosley on the sidelines, and they're doing everything they can to do that. You know, you had that 7-game win streak, so you know you got it in you. You know, and if you go back to when they came, if you go back to when they played Oklahoma City last, going into last night, they were 13-5 in their last 18. That's the second most wins in the NBA. So they've definitely found something. They just ran into 2 buzzsaws. You know, you played Oklahoma City last night, best team in the NBA, defending champs. They had won 8 in a row. And then before that, it was Atlanta who had won 9 in a row. Before that was Miami who had won 7 in a row. It's the 5th time in NBA history that a team played 3 straight games against an opponent with a 7-game win streak. I mean, think about that. So now you're feeling good. You got a 7-game win streak, and you roll into something that's only happened 4 other times in NBA history. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about with the unfortunate luck that this team has gone through. So, my opinion, the way these guys feel, every single arena we go to, every star on every other team is coming up to Jamal Mosley. They're dapping him up. They're giving him props. He is so much respected and revered around the NBA that moving on from Jamal Mosley, in my opinion, would be a giant mistake.
He's done a terrific job. There's no doubt. And I will say this, Miami wants no part of Orlando. The Magic run this state,
None.
Dante. 5-0 in the regular season, 2-0 in the preseason, 7 wins total for the Magic over the Heat. Quickly, 60 seconds. Boy, the East, man, it's kind of refreshing. Charlotte, Atlanta, Orlando, Miami. I mean, teams that have, either been bottom feeders or in the play-in. Boy, all those teams all of a sudden now are competing to get in the top 6. It looks like maybe a little bit of a changing of the guard in that tier of the Eastern Conference.
It certainly does. I can't stand tanking. No one hates tanking more than me, and I've gone on the record every chance I get. Miami doesn't tank, and look, they're right in the middle of things. Toronto could have tanked this year. They didn't. It seemed like Atlanta was tanking when they traded Trae Young. They didn't. They caught lightning in a bottle. All these teams could have shut it down and just played. Charlotte has been tanking for a decade, it feels like, but they've caught fire now, and they're right in the mix. I mean, this becomes a huge game tomorrow, the Magic and the Charlotte Hornets. So you're going into last night, a game and a half separated 5 through 9. Think about that. A game and a half separated 5 through 9. We thought Boston was going to tank, right? Didn't have Jason Tatum. We thought, okay, this will be a down year, get a big draft pick. I absolutely hate tanking, and I have so much respect for those teams battling through and not taking the season off. And it's made for great parity in the NBA. It's going to make for a great race. And I truly think, Ryan, number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are all going to come down to game 82 this year.
Yeah, I agree. 14 games to go in the regular season. And as we said, Orlando theoretically could finish anywhere from 4 to 10 in that ratio. Let's hope it's more in the 4, 5, 6 range than the 7, 8, 9
Got to avoid that play-in, right? You've got to avoid that play-in scenario. I agree.
Completely agree. Dante Marchitelli of the FanDuel Sports Network. Of course, you catch Dante alongside David Steele, Jeff Turner, Kendra Douglas, and the great folks, the coach Brian Hill, many, many more there with Orlando Magic coverage. And as folks know here in Jacksonville, Dante, you hear a lot of Magic games on 1010XL. The Magic are catching a lot of popularity here in Jacksonville. The Jaguars, with what they did last year, I'm just curious, and the idea that they're probably going to play down there in 2027, what's the thought on Jacksonville as far as the Jaguars in the Orlando area?
Oh, my goodness. We have so many Jaguar fans here in Central Florida. I mean, there's a lot of teams, there's a lot of people that keep their eye on the Jaguars, and we're so excited for their success and making it back to the playoffs this year. I think it's a fantastic story. Obviously there's a lot of Tampa Bay Buccaneer fans, Miami Dolphin fans. Those two teams go a little bit longer in history than the Jaguars, but the Jaguars, there's so many. It's such an easy drive. It's such an easy way to get up there that you have a lot of fans that have made that drive. You have a lot of Gators that went to school there and were Jaguar fans while they were there in Gainesville, going to UF. So there's a huge following here in Central Florida, and I'm telling you, they are going to absolutely impress the NFL and a number of sports fans, showing how we show up for that year when they're down here renovating the stadium up in Jacksonville. Jacksonville, first of all, is going to make a ton more fans because you're going to get a ton of people going out to those games, and they're going to start making that drive up there to Jacksonville, and you're going to create a lot more fans. But we're going to represent, and it's going to be a special feeling, and we can't wait to host everybody from Jacksonville who comes down to watch their beloved Jaguars. And hopefully it's an unbelievable season. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and we can't thank you guys enough for everything you do at 1010. We started this about 4 or 5 years ago. We thought, man, maybe we get a game or two here and there on the air, and you've been phenomenal. RJ Saunders has been phenomenal. Just all you guys have just done a fantastic job. We can't thank you enough. And we're very proud, very, very proud of all the stuff that you do for us up there in Jacksonville. So thank you, Ryan.
Well, we certainly love the Orlando Magic. I'm a diehard fan, and I'm also a big fan of Dante Marchitelli and the entire FanDuel Sports TV team. Dante, thank you as always, pal. We'll talk around playoff time.
Always good to talk to you, Ryan. Yeah, let's have a long postseason run. I think Magic fans would love that.
And thank you to Dante Marchitelli of the FanDuel Sports Network for joining us tonight here on Hacker After Dark. Obviously, I'm a long-time Orlando Magic fan, and I love the relationship that we here on 1010XL have built with the Orlando Magic. Dante Marchitelli is a big, big part of that. You see him with David Steele, with Jeff Turner, and all the great folks down there on the FanDuel Sports Network on the TV side of things. As Orlando currently sits 38-30 on the year, they're currently in 6th place in the Eastern Conference. Now, to avoid the play-in, they got to finish in the top 6. So if the season ended today, Orlando would not have to be in the play-in. But as we talked about with Dante, there's 14 games to go in the regular season for Orlando. Theoretically, they could finish anywhere between 4th and 10th. It is going to be wild over the next 14 games, and that begins tomorrow night with a pretty big game against a team that's chasing them in the standings, that being the much-improved Charlotte Hornets. So we certainly spent some time on that. Spent some time on the Florida Gators. They get their NCAA tournament underway on Friday evening, 9:25 scheduled tip time, although I believe it'll be considerably later than that down in Tampa. Certainly the number 1 seed in the South region expected to go a long way in the NCAA tournament, so we certainly spent a lot of time on Florida. Again, the field of 64 tips off tomorrow right around noontime. 16 games tomorrow, 16 games on Friday, and then, of course, 8 games on Saturday, 8 games on Sunday. I'm not sure if the next 4 days, Thursday through Sunday, rounds 1 and 2 of the NCAA tournament, if they're not among the best 4 days consecutively in all of sports. It is fantastic to watch March Madness. Certainly looking forward to that. In fact, we will be out and about both tomorrow night and Friday night. Tomorrow night out in Ponte Vedra at Mr. Chubby's Wings, myself and Rick Ballou. So we'll be out there from 6 o'clock until 10 o'clock out at Mr. Chubby's in Ponte Vedra. And then on Friday, it's kind of a home game for me, Top Dog Tavern over off of Old St. Augustine in the Bartram area over there. We'll be over there from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock as well. So we hope you stop by either at Mr. Chubby's in Ponte Vedra tomorrow night or at Top Dog Tavern off of Old St. Augustine on Friday night for our live broadcast during the first round of the NCAA tournament. And as you can imagine, we certainly spent some time on the Jacksonville Jaguars this evening as well, as free agency continues, and now all eyes begin pointing towards the NFL draft, which is just over a month away up in Pittsburgh. Well, that will just about do it, man. Very, very busy Wednesday night edition of Hacker After Dark. We certainly appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM, and we have a ton of people to thank. Again, Dante Marchitelli of the FanDuel Sports Network talking Orlando Magic with us. Thank you to Kevin Brockway of the Gainesville Sun, Gatorsports.com, as we did a deep dive on Florida's NCAA tournament hopes that began on Friday night. And Jarrett Bailey of SB Nation. He's also a host of the Pump Fake podcast. He's one of our favorites to talk Jaguars and NFL at large with, and we certainly appreciate Jared Bailey for taking time out for us this evening. Now, again, we will be back tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, live from Mr. Chubby's in Ponte Vedra, and we do hope that you join us then. Aaron Williams was your producer tonight. Aaron, great job as always. I'm the hacker, Ryan Green. And again, Jacksonville, thank you for spending part of your Wednesday evening with us right here on Hacker After Dark, on 1010XL, and on 92.5 FM. So for all of us here on HAD, have a terrific remainder of your Wednesday evening, and we will talk to you again tomorrow night, live from Mr. Chubby's in Ponte Vedra, beginning at 8 o'clock. Until then, good night, Jacksonville.
Our reward